Frank Ocean is one of the most mysterious artists in modern day music. He done been accused of scamming his fans, scamming his label, really a lot. One of the biggest examples of him kind of scamming his fans was back at Coachella 2023. See, to really understand the situation, people was already expecting Frank Ocean to pull out the show because at this time, it wouldn't be no surprise to anybody if Frank pulled out of the show. And I'm gonna get into that point later on, just keep it in the back of your mind for me. It's time for the show, and remember, this is his first live show since 2017, and it's going down in 2023. So time comes for the show. Frank's first performance come on, and it was really bad. A lot of the people who even attended the show didn't enjoy it. But not only that, he showed up an hour late to his own performance. And keep in mind, Coachella got a real strict curfew. But leading up to the show, it was supposed to be live streamed free on Coachella YouTube channel. Slate wrote this about the first weekend. To start, Ocean's fans from all around the world were patiently anticipating a free live stream of his set, which the music festival had promoted as part of its biggest year live stream programming yet. But mere hours before Ocean took the stage, the live stream was canceled. Fans resorted to TikTok and Instagram live stream from festival goers, all of which would have been forgivable, except that when the singer finally did make it on stage, he gave what many audience members felt was an anticlimactic performance. Performing in a puffer jacket with his hood up behind a large screen, the musician himself was barely visible. He also didn't sing very many of his songs, instead missing a couple of covers and several remixes played by his DJ. So think about it. Frank pulls up late to his own show in what, 5-6 years, and basically performs behind the stage. Niggas couldn't even see him.
Everyone is mad at Frank Ocean. We're leaving Coachella right now, and this is why. All right, I'm gonna start off by saying Frank was over an hour late, and people got there as early as 8 a.m. today. Secondly, he only performed for about 30 minutes max. Only did 3 of his popular songs. And the biggest thing is he never came out. He was behind the screen the whole entire time. By half the show, it was half empty already. People were leaving the entire time. I'm not saying like it was bad. I mean, that's up to you guys, but people feel very scammed today.
But the performance wasn't even supposed to be like that to begin with. See, originally, this performance was supposed to be crazy. I mean, it's his first show in years. Of course he was gonna go crazy, right? He was, but he didn't. At first, he had a whole ice rink with ice skaters with a whole choreography put together. And these people were spending weeks and months learning this whole dance and everything they put together for this performance. Even Coachella had approved the stage and signed off on it months in advance. And guess what happens? The day of the show, not the day before, not a week before, not a month before, the day of the show, this nigga Frank comes out and just cancels it. He was like, we not doing the ice rink no more. That's done for. And that's why Frank showed up an hour late, because he had them people take the whole rink down. He also said that if them people ain't take the rink down, he wasn't gonna perform at all. And you gotta remember, this show wasn't just about Frank. Think about all them people that sat there and bust their ass to learn this choreography and make sure everything was perfect. Niggas was probably going home every day stressing out trying to get this dance and get everything they had together right. So imagine how they was feeling. That's something they spent weeks learning every single day just got through out a window at an instant, no warning. And when it happened, a lot of the people who was working with Frank was mad.
We got our skates, we're ready to rock. The bus of all the other skaters who weren't at Coachella already has arrived. They're all sitting in wardrobe. It's a nightmare. We sit at this hotel and we run into the figure skaters. These Olympic figure skaters, mind you. They have a disgruntled look on their face and they casually mentioned to us that they just got a phone call and they've been cut from the show. So we're sitting there like, what the is happening right now? Like, these Olympians just got cut from this Coachella performance with Frank Ocean and they think that we're gonna go on, but a bunch of former hockey players are going to go up on that stage and buzz around. So we're already getting bad vibes here. We then get in this runner's van. We head over to wardrobe. They're putting on this ridiculous chrome diamond makeup on everybody.
Neither what he said on the air, but he, at the dress rehearsal, got really mad. And we were getting in trouble for being late, and not us, like the whole production was getting in trouble by Coachella because we had a cutoff and like it was too loud or whatever. Had a hot mic on that he forgot, so we're all sitting there listening to him going off on some people, but incredibly level-headed and respectful. Like, everything he was saying was just the facts, why I'm frustrated, you know, this is how I think it can be right. It wasn't you know, you hear these stories of like throwing people, and he was so cool, calm, and collected while expressing, I am furious about this, but please understand why, and let's help bridge this gap. And I was like, Frank.
Yeah.
Like that was a I liked that a lot.
And someone who went to the show spoke on his experience.
It wasn't easy to see him. It was quite dark, but we saw Frank Ocean in the middle of the stage, barely could see his face, and he was singing Novocaine. Now, I can't emphasize this enough how much we couldn't see him because most of the stage was just screens. So there was like a little rectangle where we could see Frank Ocean with horrible lighting. And as the show went on, a lot of times we had a lot of silence between songs. Frank Ocean would disappear. It just didn't make any sense. And aside the songs he played, there were no new songs. A lot of songs he lip synced, like songs like Chanel, Nights, and a lot of songs were performed with alternative arrangements. I think always of Wiseman, where he did a punk rock version of Wiseman. Beats were different. A lot of songs were hard to recognize without, of course, the lyrics. And as if it was an intermission or a break, there was a 10-minute DJ set. Now the DJ was cool. She had that Jersey mix on. But something happened that pissed me off so much. To this day, I am filled with anger every time I think about it. The twerking security guard. Holy, like this shit, man, got me. Nah, man, I did not like that. It was so useless. You had a security guard twerking for like 10 minutes, bro. Come to find out he's actually a DJ. Cool for him, but we didn't need all that, bro. I just wanted to hear Frank Ocean sing. I need to see you twerking, bro.
So really think about just how much of a disaster the show was. People waited months, came from all around the world. People waited years just to see Frank perform. Then he comes out, and we barely even see him on stage. A lot of people was feeling like he didn't even want to be there. He was just obligated to. One person who seen the live show wrote this. He was 1.5 hours late, so we all standing there in the cold and wait. He would have really long, weird, and silent pauses throughout the set, like 2 minutes of pure silence. He kept bringing on people, but not even participating in the song, just letting them sing or DJ. There was also a 6-minute rave in the middle of his concert. His whole stage setup was made so that the audience couldn't see him no matter how close we were. We couldn't see the stage, so everyone had to watch the screen the whole time. The screen itself would barely even show him too. You see in the videos I'll post later, it was like a weird film. People traveled so far to see him, and people had high expectations because he hasn't played in 6 years, and we all got really disappointed. The whole production was just lacking, and he was really not bringing much to the whole performance. I think he did like 6 total songs of his original music. Anyhow, everyone in the crowd was shook, and a lot of people left early, including me. But guess what? It gets worse. He wasn't just performing one time. He had 2 performances. He did this first one that had people mad, and when time came for the second show, he pulls out. He was basically like, I got an ankle injury, I'm not gonna perform. And this had their internet on fire. Every side of the internet was mad at him, calling him a scammer, saying that he was dead ass wrong for doing his fans like this. And a lot of people was looking at Frank kind of crazy. And I ain't gonna lie, it was deserved. New York Times wrote this. Frank Ocean was unable to perform the intended show, but was still intent on performing. And in 72 hours, the show was reworked out of necessity. On doctor's advice, Frank Ocean is not able to perform weekend 2 due to 2 fractures and a sprain in his leg. Some fans and critics complained that the singer was hard to see throughout the set, which included his hits like Bad Religion and White Ferrari, and that there were pauses throughout. In a statement on Wednesday, Ocean said that his set, it was chaotic, it's some beauty in chaos. It isn't what I intended to show, but I did enjoy bringing people out there, and I'll see you soon. And like I said, this was his first show in years. He had people come from all around the world just to see him. But that was just one of the times he did that. It's been plenty of times over the years where Frank Ocean canceled shows. They actually got a count every time he canceled a show. But this ain't the only controversy he done been in the 2020s. Back in 2021, he was in a controversy for kind of being out of touch with his fans, out of touch with the world. So to put it in perspective, Frank's last album dropped in 2016, and in 2021, he comes out with this whole jewelry brand named Homer. He comes out, drops some jewelry, drops some necklaces, but he ain't stop at that. Instead of him coming out here dropping some music, instead of dropping something the fans wanted, Frank Ocean, I swear to God, drops a $25,000 cock ring. Hypebeast wrote this. Homer has announced the XXL 8-bone ring. The blinged out accessory is an 18-karat yellow gold cock ring that's currently retailing for $25,000. Additional details include the diamond encrusted H Homer motifs, and there's other various styles of the rings that's available on the official Homer website, falling between $1,300 and $5,600 lower price range for those who still want to add a bit of spice to their life, but don't want to shell out $250,000. So think about it. This man dropping stuff like this with no actual album, and his fans wasn't liking that. But if we got to be honest, Frank's relationship with albums has always been a strange thing. Take a look back at his very first project on DSPs. I'm not saying his first project ever, just the first project on DSPs, Apple Music, Spotify. He had Channel Orange in 2012 and he had Blonde in 2016. And them the only two albums on his Apple Music. And throughout time, Frank had always been scarce with his music. And he was kind of facing the problem that many other artists face at least once in their career, label problems. But Frank pulled something completely different than anything we would see a modern day artist do when they facing label problems. And before I tell you about that, make sure you go tap in with the second channel, Get Like Prince Live. I say it all the time. If you enjoy the content over here, you gonna enjoy it over there. But Frank finessed the hell out of his label. He pulled one of the biggest heists in modern day music. So Frank was getting into it with his label, and they wasn't on the best terms. And Frank knew that. He was feeling like the only thing that was really holding his career back was his label. So he started plotting. He trying to figure out how he gonna get out this deal. He trying to figure out what he gonna do. And this was something that was gonna take a while for him, but he did it. So Frank goes to his label and they're like, we need one more album out to get you out this deal. And he gives them that one album, but it wasn't a regular album. So leading up to this album, Frank signed a deal with Apple Music, right? And they paid him $20 million for this exclusivity deal. They had him exclusively drop this album on Apple Music, and that's what he did. But remember what I said. This wasn't a regular album. This man drops a visual album on Apple Music that was streamed live for hours and hours. You see Frank building this staircase, and by the end, the album played. And everything was cool, right? Frank label was like, all right, you out the deal. But nigga, you gotta pay that advance. Don't forget we gave you that $2 million. Frank was like, all right. So he used some money out of that $20 million he got from Apple, paid the rest of that advance off. So he gets out of his deal with Def Jam. But that ain't the end of the story. The label was probably thinking everything was good. They was like, all right, nigga, we came up $2 million. We got the album from Frank. Until they woke up that next day. Frank ain't just make one album. A day after he drops his weird ass visual album for his label, he comes out, drops his real album, Blonde. So really think about it. He made two albums. One that was a visual album to get out the deal, and an actual album that many people consider one of the best albums of all time. So Frank finessed his label that bad. But you gotta remember, he did this to a record label. And there was gonna be some consequences, not to Frank, but to every single other artist in the industry for the rest of time. Think about what he just did. He signed a deal with Apple to get out of his record deal, and the entire world seen it. The entire world laughed at these labels. Def Jam was made a fool in front of the whole world, so they mad. And they cut ties with Apple. They was like, we ain't doing no more deals with Apple. We not doing that no more. And these labels wasn't playing with nobody, because a lot of artists lost money because of this. A lot of artists faced the consequences of Frank actions. And there was a point in time where Joe Budden had a whole podcast section dedicated to Frank Ocean kind of scamming these people. Joe said Frank Ocean is a scammer. He is a scammer by the way he got out his deal with Universals. And I think most of his scams are genius, but he'll always wear that scammer tag for me. He fucked it up for a lot of artists. He didn't care. A lot of artists lost revenue streams, took Apple out the game. He didn't care. But this all leads us to one question. Why did Frank disappear? So Frank Ocean being gone and not feeding his fans is not nothing new, like I done said throughout this video. It's always been a part of his career. But this Frank Ocean music drop in his fan base right now is something the world ain't never seen before. See, when Frank came out in 2016 and dropped, like I said, one of the greatest albums of all time, even Apple Music put it on their number 5 best albums on their list, many people consider it to be such a good album. And maybe for him, since he put out something that is looked at as this good, does he want to follow up on it? Does he want to hear the comparisons about whatever body of work he puts out next being compared to Blonde? Does he want to risk the legacy he done built with this album? See, with Frank, it's probably a lot going on in that man's mind. Probably with doubts about the album or life problems just slowing the album down, because it has been a long gap between Blonde and 2024. See, in this time since Blonde came out, something that could have possibly had the part to play in whatever he was going to do or whatever he was going to drop, Frank Ocean brother had passed away back in 2020. And the point of me bringing this up isn't to really discuss what happened to his brother. It's just to speak on how it affected Frank. See, back when he was doing that Coachella show, he had spoke on how it was affecting him, and he said this about his brother. My brother and I came to this festival alive. I felt like I was dragged out here half the time, so I hated the dust, but I knew he would have been so excited to be out here with all of us. And not only that, something I didn't speak on was people was kind of speculating on if the ice rink was kind of dedicated to his brother. Now, I don't know if this is 100% fact. A fan on Reddit wrote this. I don't know if anyone has already talked about it in this sub, but I want to invite everyone to listen to the full Iceman Blind radio show, including the interview. First, we had a freestyle Come On World, You Can't Go, originally recorded in the summer of 2020, and it's centered around Frank's grief following the death of his younger brother, Ryan. In short, Frank explores new ways of being uncomfortable, an ice bath, in the hopes that it can push him farther into healing from loss. It's from the narrative of Iceman, the man responsible for introducing Frank to ice baths. He talks about how adaptable our bodies are and how much we as humans are built to get out of sticky situations, emotional and physically. It's not to cure grief, nothing is, but it's a call out for everyone to keep on trying. So the whole concept of Coachella was Iceman, the outfit, the ice skaters, the ice rink. He was singing Come On World, You Can't Go, the set being dedicated to his brother. Everything connects perfectly. Hopefully, we are able to see the concept on W2. Now, that also could have played into him having that whole ice rink tear down and why he didn't want to perform if they didn't tear it down. So it could have just been he didn't want to feel them emotions from his brother, but I guess we don't know. So it really just seems like Frank done abandoned his music and his fans really for many reasons. Will fans ever get another album from Frank Ocean? Who knows? I guess only time will tell. But if you want to hear me speak more about Frank Ocean, click on the vid on screen right now.